The chamber of the Galactic Council was a ring of black stone that drank the light. 1,000 banners hung from the dome, each banner a memory of victory. Cold stars shone through the ceiling glass. In the center stood a shallow pit with a silver table, and on that table, a soft blue globe turned slowly. It was a model of a small planet with white clouds and blue seas and no voice. It was Earth. The chamber echoed with laughter. The sound bounced from pillar to pillar and shook like coins in a jar. Some delegates slapped the table with their hands. Some clicked mandibles. Some opened frills and hissed like steam. The laugh was not joy. It was the sharp laugh of hunters who saw no threat. "Humans," said the scale prince of the Carax, and the translator gave his voice a smooth metal sound.
Ouch.
"Children of a dead world. Agreed of a broken world. Agreed." The Shriver matriarch. Her thin mouth curved. They burned their seas. They split their air. They fought until the sky gave up. The blue globe spun, showed the ice above the poles. It showed the smooth, empty night around it. The model of Earth looked calm and quiet and very far away. On the lower benches sat junior aides and scribes. They typed notes. They sent reports. One young clerk from a minor trade culture sat there with a stylus too large for his hands. His name was Rel Toll. He wrote slowly because he liked to think while he wrote. He had never seen a human. He had seen only their old symbols in cargo ports, warnings in many languages, and he had heard stories told at night by pilots with tired eyes. He kept his eyes on the spinning blue globe. The council speaker raised a silver staff for order. The laughter slowly fell. "We meet," said the speaker, "to close an old book." His voice was careful and calm. "The Inspection Bureau has finished its latest survey of Sol Sector. The report is complete. We place it in the archive here. And we move our fleets and attention to more useful places." A projector lit the air above the table. Lines appeared, clean white lines of sensor readings. A cluster of dots marked the inner planets. A bright circle showed the sun. Another 3 faint dots showed the empty path of old stations in the outer dark. Each line said the same thing. Nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. A narrow member of the Intercepients Trust lifted a thin arm. "The Bureau," he said, "used deep sweeps, long baselines, and 3 cycles of space-time scans. We found." He glanced around the chamber and smiled without warmth. Silence. Another wave of laughter moved through the hall, softer. This time, almost lazy. Reltal felt that laugh in his bones, and did not like it. He had never been to Sol. He had never seen Earth. But he could see the way the blue globe shone on the polished table.
Oh.
It did not look dead to him. It looked like a closed door. A tall delegate from the Iron Hives pressed his hand to the table. "We would like to speak to the costs," he said. "The Bureau has spent 9 years surveying a graveyard. This is waste. Should farm the moons and be done." "Agreed," said a lord of trade. "The rumor of hidden human weapons lives only in back bars and broken channels. The last human beacon died a century ago. The last human ship was a rusted hulk found by miners. The last human settlement burned before that. Their story is over. The market moves on." In that moment, a thin voice spoke from a shadowed seat. Near the wall, it was so soft that Reltal almost missed it. But the hall was wide and old, and it knew how to carry a whisper. The whisper slid under the banners and across the stone and into every ear. "They are not gone," said the voice. "They are only hidden." The room did not laugh. The room went still in one breath. Heads turned. Eyelids clicked. Frills closed. Mandibles froze mid-chatter. The whisper had come from a delegate who never spoke. He wore a gray cloak and a dull ring with a dull stone. His skin was the color of smoke. He was a representative of a culture that had no big fleets, no loud markets, and yet kept a seat on the council because it paid attention to small things. And small things often came before big things. The speaker touched his staff. "You were recognized earlier, Elder. You declined. Now you speak. The council hears you." The elder raised his face. His eyes were pale blue like old ice. Eyes. He did not smile and he did not bow. "Long ago," he said, "you laughed this. Way at a different warning. It cost you worlds. I remember because my people went hungry that year. So I tell you a simple thing. Humans build in ways you do not understand. They learn to hide in the open. They learn to put a door in the dark and draw the curtain of space over it. A ripple of noise moved through the seats and certain, not quite laughter, not quite anger. The Shriver matriarch flicked her fingers. Elder, your words are fog. The Bureau shows silence. The sun is the brightest thing in that sector. There is no door. There is nothing to hide. The Elder's pale eyes did not move from the globe. You think your instruments see everything? But the oldest human trick was simple. They made their signal a mirror. Your scans come back to you with your own face. And when you meet your own face, you stop looking. A low cough from the iron hives. My hive has run spectral tricks since. Before your ring was mined, we detect mirror fields. Cut through them. We have cut through every kind. Not every kind, the Elder said. Only the kinds you know. Silence stretched again. The speaker leaned forward. What offer? Story? We ask for proof. Proof is in your own archive, said the Elder. He lifted one hand. A second projection fluttered into the air. Old footage appeared grainy, color shifted, angles wrong. It was a recording from a ship that no longer flew, showed a black patch on a star field where stars should have been. For a long breath, there was only that patch, still and wrong. Then a ripple ran through it, like heat over a road. For a fraction of a second, something large showed through, the way a whale shows, a fin and slips away. The image froze at the instant of that fin. The room exhaled together. The Intercepient's trust delegate gave a thin smile, ghost of a ghost. A sensor glitch from a century-old drone. Your fin is noise. The Elder did not answer. Let the image stay. He let the wrong shape sit there in the blue light. Reltal, on the lower bench, leaned forward. He could not stop looking. The shape in the darkness was not a drift rock. It had edges that the eye could almost see and almost could not. It made his skin feel tight. The speaker lifted his staff. Again, whether there is a trick or not, we will not argue with shadows all night. We will close the book with a vote. Does any member require a last word? A hard voice cut across him. It was the War Archon of the Zath. I require, she said, not words, but a test. You all enjoy rumor. Good. Let us enjoy it with data. I will send a light squadron to the dark patch, and we'll map it. They'll fire into it if needed. We will finish this laugh. The matriarch hissed in approval. The iron hives clicked assent. Council loved tests when others paid for them. The speaker nodded. The Zath may test if the Bureau will escort. The Bureau man hesitated, then nodded. It was hard to say no when everyone watched. We will send to survey craft. We will confirm there is nothing to see. The Elder's pale eyes drifted to Reltal on the lower bench, and then back to the globe, said nothing more. The laughter was gone when the council closed. Delegates shuffled out under the silent banners. The chamber lights dimmed. Only the blue model of Earth still turned on the silver table, and even that seemed to turn slower. Reltal stayed in his seat longer than he should. Supervisor coughed, and he stood fast, collected his notes, and hurried along the hallway with the other clerks. The hallways were long and smooth and quiet, with soft gold light. He glanced back. The Elder in the gray cloak was not far behind, walking alone. The Elder did not look at him now. Reltal reached the scribe office and dropped his notes in the slot. He could go home. He did not. He walked to the tall window at the end of the corridor and watched the city world outside. Ships rose from the docks. Lines of light crossed the night. Trade was endless. War was constant in small ways and famous in large ways. He pressed his forehead to the cool glass and tried to see that old fin shape again. Could not see it. And yet the feeling stida, feeling like a hand on the small of his back, not pushing, just telling him to move. He went home late, and the city sang its night songs around him, markets closing, patrols passing, duct fans humming in the towers. He slept badly. He dreamed of a door cut into empty space, and a hand reaching through and turning a switch at the edge of a minor star. Far from the council, a small object floated inside a slow ring of dust. It had lived there for a long time. It was the size of a cargo locker, dull gray, pitted by time, covered with a thin skin of frozen gas and powdered rock. It could be mistaken for a rock if you wanted to mistake it. But it had not been made by chance. It had been placed. And it had not been dead. It had been sleeping inside, sealed by triple locks. A spool waited. Above the spool, a sensor watched a thin set of numbers. The numbers were not brightness, or motion, or heat. They were more like the rhythm of a heart, if a heart could be measured. In the way deep fields bend a fraction, the way background noise shifts a shade, humans had learned to read that rhythm. They had learned to hide inside it. For many years, the numbers had been like rain. They fell in no order, and the spool slept. Tonight, far away, a Bureau survey craft and a Zath light spear squadron aimed new instruments at a dark patch in a certain sector. Wow. Their signals pushed into the fold the humans had cut long ago. Their probes asked a new question, a question old instruments had not asked. A small part of the rain changed pattern. It was not much. It was enough. The sensor woke the spool with a whisper. The spool turned. A thin metal tongue slid out from the object's skin. It tasted the dust. It found an old path baked into the dust by Christmas light impulses that had been sent and received years and years ago. Maintenance signals for dead buoys and a forgotten survey web. The tongue pushed a small current into that path. That current ran down the line and touched other sleeping pieces and other shapes. It traced a spider map through space. Locks opened. Caps popped. Tiny invisible machines unfolded and felt the light. They were not many. They did not need to be many. They were the first match in a cold room. The object sent a signal. It was not a loud signal. It was not on the bands that ships and stations used. It was old and strange and traveled like a slow thought through a quiet mind. It did not tell the stars a long story. It told a few words with care. Wake Relay 1. Wake Relay 2. Confirm path. Far away, another object heard and answered path confirmed and woke a third. The map spread, a string of pearls no one had worn in a long time, in the void between two small stars. A plate as black as shadow turned its face. Its edge matched the night. It looked like nothing. But when it turned, it caught a whisper from the first object and answered, Field, hold stable. The first object lit one more thing, a memory. The memory was of faces with soft eyes and quick hands. The memory was of a red home and white cloud bands. Closer than the memory was a command older than the Council's banners. If outside instruments asked the right question, answer the object. Sent the answer. It did not speak in words. Right. It moved the fold by a fraction. It turned a hinge you could not see, far from the dust ring. In a quiet sector the Council called empty, space changed by less than a breath. It was not like a door opening. It was like the idea of a door remembering that it had a handle. In the Council tower, the bureau man woke to a blink on a private console. He sat up in the dark and touched the screen. Simple message waited. Tagged with protocols from an old era he had studied but never used. External interference detected in controlled vacuum. Cross-check. He frowned. He reached for a cup. He read it again. He sent a sleepy ACK to the log and almost put the console down. And a line repeated under the first line, identical, which made his throat feel dry. Outside interference in a place where the Bureau had insisted there was nothing to interfere with. He sent 2 more checks and 3 calls and stared at the wall while routes opened in their barracks ring. The Zath Lightspear squadron strapped into harness. Their ships were thin and quick. Their pilots were proud and sharp. They laughed the way the Council had laughed. They burned for the dark patch. Rel Tal woke without knowing why and went to his window again. He touched the glass and watched a little line of traffic far out past the docks, angling toward the deep lanes. They were small and fast. He could not see banners at that distance. He thought of the Elder's pale eyes, thought of the old fin shape. He felt the hand on his back again. He went to the small shelf where he kept his data slates. He pulled up the public feed of Bureau movements and saw a new line of updates that meant the Bureau Was escorting something to a sector they had just promised was quiet. He breathed out slowly, as if trying not to wake a child. Deep in the void, the dark patch that the Zath were chasing was not a patch at all. It was a place where the fold was bent in a human way. It looked like nothing you could fly through. It'd never feel a bump if you were not asking the right questions. The Bureau survey craft had brought new questions like keys. They had asked those keys into the lock. Lock had turned. At first, the Zath saw nothing. Their lead pilot spoke a joke on a private loop. The joke died in his throat as the stars ahead of him slid a little, the way coins slide when a table shifts. A thin seam of light showed and shut. If you have hunted long enough, you know the difference between a shadow and a thing that can cast a shadow. The lead pilot's hands tightened on the grips. "Mark it," he said, and the ship marked. It ranged the seam. The Bureau craft on the flank spoke. "No return." The voice was too calm. "Repeat. No return." The pulse disappears. "Where?" the pilot asked. "Here," the craft said. "Right here." The pilot aimed a searchline into the seam. He pushed a trickle of engine at the same time. He felt the trickle vanish. Not slow, not burn, vanish. It was like pouring water into sand. His back got cold. He cut the engines and drifted. He looked at the stars. Two bright ones that had been a finger width apart were now closer. No, not closer seen. Through something that made them different. He knew he should turn back. He also knew how the council laughed when people turned back. He said a prayer and moved forward. As his ship kissed the seam a second time, something old and patient decided. The seam split as a mouth splits. Wide, wide enough. Light leaked through. It was the softest light, blue and gold at once, and white at the edges. It looked like sunrise made of geometry. Lines within lines burned and faded. The pilot forgot to breathe for one heartbeat. In the half-glimpse between one frame and the next, he saw a curve too large for his mind to seat, a ring within a ring. Structures like ribs and gardens like maps all folded into each other. Then the seam closed. His ship spun as if pushed by. A hand he could not see. Alarms cried. He swore. He fought the stick. He came out shaking and alive. "Did you record?" he asked. "Yes," the ship said. And then, after a pause, in a softer tone he had never heard from its logic, "I do not know what I recorded." The Bureau craft on the flank spoke again, voice no longer calm. "We have external interference in controlled vacuum. We are pulling back to relay." The Zath pilot was about to agree when his panel blinked in a way that meant message private, old format. He frowned, did not have keys for old formats. The message did not care. It wrote itself in simple letters on the corner of his screen. "Please, stay back." He whispered a curse that sounded like a prayer. "Who is this?" The message did not answer, did not have to. The voice was not a voice, and yet it felt human. On a rock that was not a rock, the first object watched its map finish. The pearls of relay were awake. The plate in the void held its shape. The hinge was set. The question had been asked, and the answer had been given. The object could go back to sleep, but it did not. It listened to a deeper channel. The deeper channel was not for bureaucraft or Zath pilots. It was for something else, a very long way from the council and its banners. Between quiet stars, a mass like a city dreamed in the dark. It was not on. It was not off. It was coiled. Inside that mass were parks with rivers that curved like silver wires. There were halls where robots stood shoulder to shoulder, their eyes dark. There were schools where old books waited in sealed cases. There were barracks with rifles and racks wrapped in soft cloth and oiled by machines that never stopped working even when no one came. There were engines that had not burned in a century, held by fields that hummed like bees. There was a room at the center with a chair and a circle of glass, and a skeleton of controls stretched like fingers around the chair. Under that chair was a second chair, and that second chair was a person in a suit that fit like a second skin. A mask covered the face. Tubes went into the suit and came out again in loops. A circle on the person's chest pulsed once every long minute. Above the chair hung a screen with only a line on it, and the line was almost flat, but not flat. The first object sent its smallest signal to that room. It was a whisper at the edge of hearing. The line on the screen moved. It moved again. Moved in a way that was not random. Machines in the room woke, not with noise, but with attention. They took the whisper apart. They compared it to books. They asked if this was the right question, the question the old plan had waited for. The answer was yes. The suit around the person warmed by a degree. The tubes changed their mix. The chair moved a grain. Lights like very small stars opened one by one in the ring of controls. A voice spoke in the room. The voice was not a machine voice exactly, and not a human voice exactly. It was a careful voice. External instruments have probed the fold, the voice said. Protocol 7. Stage 1. The circle on the person's chest beat and beat. Again faster. The fingers twitched. The eyelids moved. In the garden rings, tiny bees that were not bees started their loops. In the barracks, oil pumps hummed. In the engine bay, a field tightened on a blade the size of a building and made the blade sing in a very small way. Like a string warming up outside, in the void where the Zath pilots held their breath, the seam of light shivered and smoothed. It was as if something inside had taken one long stretch after a night of sleep. In the council tower, the bureau man's console rang with feeds from the flank craft and the Zath. He watched the half-glimpse the pilot had caught. He saw the blue and gold and white like sunrise made of geometry. He called 3 superiors, and to committees. He wrote a flag that said, "Do not play this on public channels," and sent it. He looked at his hands and found they had started to shake trill. Tal's slate chimed with a news burst about a Zath test flight with no context. He ignored the headline and watched the background of the clip. He saw the pilot's eyes when the clip paused. They were wide and bright and full of something he knew was not fear alone. He knew that look. It was the look of someone who had seen a door move on his way to the office. Reltal took the long stare by the old windows so he could breathe real air that drifted through the vents there. As he climbed, he saw the elder waiting on a landing, hands on the rail. The elder did not seem surprised to see him. "You watched," the elder said. Reltal nodded before he could stop himself. "You wrote it in your face," the elder said. "Good. There is too much laughing in this place." Reltal swallowed. "What is it?" "A promise," the elder said. He looked past the boy at the slice of sky visible through the window. "Or a threat. Often they are the same, humans made." "It for both." Reltal wanted to ask more. He wanted to ask if the city was real, if Earth was alive, if the council would go to war. He asked nothing. The elder had already turned away. The old man's voice carried back without turning. "Pay close attention," he said.
Al.
Sound is always small. In the dust ring where the first object had slept, the last process began. A cat blew off with a puff that was nothing against the vacuum and everything against time. A dish unfolded like a flower taught to open in slow motion. The dish turned toward the place where the fold seam had opened. The dish sent a final narrow line. It was only a touch. It was enough. A relay 3 jumps away took the touch and changed it into a pulse. Another relay took that pulse and made it into a call. The call was clean and spare and old. Wake inside the mass that slept like a city. A light above the center chair went from red to amber. The person in the suit breathed, without the machine for the first time in a long time. The voice in the room spoke again, and there was something in it that might have been relief. Protocol 7. Stage 2. All across the structure's parks, halls, barracks, bays the hum rose a little. The city did not open its eyes, rolled them under closed lids. Beyond the fold seam, the Zath lead pilot looked at his panel and then at the stars that were not quite right. "We are pulling back," he said, and no one mocked him. "We are marking a beacon and pulling back." The Bureau may decide if this joke is still funny. Behind him, the bureaucraft answered, "Marking copy pull back, logging interference." Logging light emission. At the voice paused, then dropped half a tone. "Logging unknown." "What unknown?" the pilot asked. The Bureau man did not answer at once. He was watching a soft halo on his screen brighten by the smallest measure, as if a sunrise had begun behind a curtain. He did not know what it was. He knew only two things. It was not his ship, and it was not the Zath. He swallowed. Logging, he said, and cleared his throat. Logging change of background luminosity, very small, persistent. The pilot looked up again at the seam. He thought of doors and hands on handles. He felt very young. Back in the council chamber, the blue globe of Earth still spun. The chamber was empty now. The banners did not move. But a camera tucked into a carved niche blinked from green to amber and began to record again. No one had told it to do that. No one in the tower even knew that old cameras still had a power. Sell it recorded the blue globe's light grow warmer by a fraction as the systems far away warmed. It recorded the quiet in the elders' quarters. A small chime sounded. He did not smile. He folded his gray cloak and put it over the back of a chair, took a single small bag from under the bed. He checked the seal on the bag with tired hands. He opened the door. Reltal was standing there, breathless, as if he had been about to knock and then forgot how. The elder looked at him, and then at the hallway behind him. "Come," the elder said simply. "There are things you should see with your own eyes." Reltal nodded and followed. In a region of space with no name on any council star map, a satellite, that looked like a rock finished its job. It had been a guard at the edge of a sleeping city. It had been a watcher of rain. It had been a key. Now it was an old key, with the lock open. It did not self-destruct with a flash. It did not burn a message into the dark. It simply turned itself off, as if it were an honest rock again. But the map it had lit did not go dark. Signals moved like slow lightning through. Invisible wires that no council chart had ever drawn. Plates turned faces. Fields shaped themselves, as if hands had pressed them into clay. The fold seemed smoothed again, and then flexed. The flex was not wide. It did not need to be wide. On the far side of that seam, inside the place where the fold hid what lay there, ancient systems felt the touch of the call and felt their own strength and answered in the only language that mattered. They began to wake, and out in the emptiness that the council had called harmless and quiet, something very large and very human stirred in its sleep and turned its face toward the stars. The void was silent. But silence did not mean empty. A lone, alien scout vessel, the Varric's Lightwing, drifted at the edge of the black sector of the council. Had mocked the night before. Its hull was thin, built for speed and sensors, not battle. Its crew of 6 sat uneasy in the glowing cockpit. They had been ordered here by the Bureau to prove the elder wrong. To map the dark patch and laugh at the myth's orders were simple. Scan the void, record the silence, and return. Yet, as the Lightwing glided across the stars, its sensors kept stuttering, as if the void itself resisted being touched. The lead scout, Captain Darash, leaned forward. His 4 eyes blinked twice as the console glowed with static. Again, he muttered. The readings blink and vanish.
No.
"Show me a clean feed." His technician, a nervous young crewer with narrow tusks, shook her head. "It's not the console, Captain. The interference is out there. Every time we point toward the black seam, the stars she swallowed, the stars don't line up." Darush stared at the screen. To anyone else, the void looked like empty space. But to trained eyes, something was wrong. The stars around the dark patch seemed bent, like coins under water. "Impossible," Darush whispered. "That's no dust cloud. That's structure." The crew exchanged looks. Everyone had heard the council's laughter. Everyone had heard the elders whisper. They are not gone. They are only hidden, and now here in the emptiness. Something was hidden. Record everything Darush ordered. The Lightwing circled slowly, scanners humming. Strange glitches appeared on every pass, heat traces that weren't heat, gravity, pulls that shouldn't exist. For half a second, the sensors picked up the outline of something massive, and lost it again, as if space itself was lying. "It's like the void eats our signals," said the technician. Darush's hands tightened on the grips, he remembered. The stories of humans who had fought like demons, who had built machines that even the great hives could not match. He had never believed them. Now, staring into the black seam, he wasn't so sure. The console beeped sharply. The pilot cursed. Contact. Everyone's head snapped to the screen. For one heartbeat, something huge flared into view, a curve of metal, vast, gleaming faintly, then gone again. The crew gasped. "What was that?" "City," whispered one of the crew. His voice shook. "That was no ship. That was a city." The words hung in the air, heavy and dangerous, Captain. "We should leave," the technician said quickly. Hands trembled over the keys. "If this is what the Elder spoke of, then it's real. The Council was wrong. We must return with this proof," said another crewer, his frills trembling. "We fire probes and test its shield. Better to destroy the myth now than bring it home." Darash looked at his crew. Fear, hunger for glory, doubt, they were all written on their faces. He knew what the Council expected, proof that humans were dead, nothing more. But in his gut he felt the weight of something bigger. He raised one hand. "No weapons," he said firmly. "We do not fire on ghosts. We observe, we record, and we leave. If this is true, if a city sleeps in the void, then it is not for a scout ship to wake it." The crew grumbled, but obeyed. They circled again. This time, the sensors caught something different. A pulse, a faint signal, ancient, almost broken, but structured. "It's broadcasting," the technician whispered. "Something down there. Something is awake." Darash leaned in. The signal was faint, coded in an old human frequency. It was too damaged to read, but one word repeated again and again. "Protocol." Darash's throat went dry. "What protocol?" The technician worked faster, sweat on her brow. "I don't know. The code is human. Predates the Council's current age." The signal pulsed again, stronger this time. And then through the distortion, a second word came. "Wake." The crew froze. The Lightwing's hull creaked as though the void itself had shifted. "Captain," one of the crewers said, his voice almost a whisper, "I think we just triggered something." On a forgotten relay station hidden in dust, lights flickered. Systems old as the first Council itself hummed awake. One by one, satellites buried in rock and ice turned toward the signal. Invisible lines stretched like threads across the stars, and deep inside the void patch, something vast and silent stirred. Engines that had not burned in centuries gave the faintest hum. Fields adjusted, bending light and space with precision no alien had ever achieved. At the very heart of it, a city slumbered, parks, barracks, towers, a command chamber, and within that chamber, a single human heartbeat grew stronger. Back at the Galactic Council, reports from the Lightwing streamed in. The Bureau tried to bury them, labeling the scans as anomalies, but rumors spread like fire. Whispered words ran through the markets and docks. The humans built a city. The humans are not gone. The humans are hidden. Delegates scoffed in public, but sent secret requests to their militaries. Merchants raised prices on old human relics. Soldiers sharpened weapons, and in the back of the council hall, the elder in the gray cloak closed his eyes and whispered to himself, "The first sound is always small." On board the Lightwing, alarms screamed. The ship jolted as if struck by a wave of force. The black seam ahead of them rippled like water. For one terrible second, the city inside showed itself fully, a massive sphere of light and steel. Rings glowing, towers stretching like a world turned inside out. The crew screamed. Darash stared, frozen in awe and terror. Then the city vanished again, the seam sealing shut. But it was too late.
Ow.
The Lightwing had already transmitted everything back to the Council. The secret was no longer hidden. Far away, in the heart of the void, 1,000 dormant machines turned their eyes toward the stars. One by one, they lit up. Humanity's secret was awake. The archive of Taval was not a place for noise. It was a hollow mountain carved into the side of an airless moon, filled with shelves of glowing crystals and frozen data rods. The air was still and cold, kept at a perfect low temperature so that knowledge would not decay. Archivist Melkor had worked here for 50 years. His hands were long and thin, his eyes weak from staring at glowing records. He did not laugh like the Council did. He did not fight like soldiers did. His duty was to guard memory. On that quiet cycle, while the Council celebrated its victory speeches about the end of the human question, a low-priority request entered the archive. A scout report from the Light Wing. Strange anomalies. Interference in controlled vacuum. And one more detail. A word repeated in an ancient human frequency. Protocol Malco R frowned. He tapped his thin finger on the rod reader. Request opened. Files older than most living empires. Files that no one had touched in centuries. The air felt colder. Dust floated from forgotten shelves. Inside those records lay maps of human projects' blueprints, half-redacted reports, warnings, and one phrase returned again and again, like a shadow carved into stone. The Shimmering City, the further Melkor. Read, the tighter his chest grew. Humans had not built only ships of war. Had built a mobile fortress, hidden with cloaking fields so advanced they bent light and bent thought. A city among the stars, carrying gardens, weapons, people and sleep. The file called it a continuity arc. Not a colony, not a fleet, but a promise. If Earth falls, humanity will not die. We will wait. Melkor's hands trembled. He looked over. His shoulder... The archive was empty, yet he felt watched. He wanted to close the file. He wanted to send nothing. But he knew too well that information was not meant to sleep. Information wanted to be found. The next council session was not filled with laughter. The hall was tense. The speaker raised his staff. The elder in gray sat silent, his pale eyes like ice. The Bureau presented the Lightwing's report. They tried to call it a sensor mirage, but the images distorted stars, bent light, and for one instant a glimpse of towers spread across the table. Delegates leaned forward. Frills stiffened, mandibles clicked. Then the archivist was called. Melkor walked slowly into the center pit, holding the crystal rod in both hands like it might burn him. He bowed. His voice was soft. These are sealed. Records, he said. From the last century of human war, the hologram rose into the chamber, a map of Sol System, then overlaid faint lines extending beyond into neighboring sectors. On those lines, hidden markers pulsed. One delegate hissed. Relay points. They built relays. Yes, Melkor said. His voice shook. The records speak of a city, a fortress. He called it Shimmering. It was designed to vanish even under deep scans, to appear only when it chose. The hall murmured with fear and disbelief. The Shriver matriarch leaned forward. Is it now, archivist? Melkor closed his eyes. The records do not say. They end in silence. The chamber exploded into voices. It is only myth. One cried. If it is myth, why do we see it on the Scout's feed? Another countered. Such a fortress exists, then the galaxy is at risk, shouted the Iron Hives. Risk or opportunity? Imagine if we claimed it. Barked the trade lords. The elder spoke at last. His voice was not loud, but it carried. You laughed before, still laugh now, but you forget the human way. They build not only to fight, but to wait. They are patient, more patient than you. Patience is weakness, spat the War Archon. Of the Zath, patience, the elder said, is the sharpest blade. Outside the council, rumors spread faster than fire. Merchants whispered of ancient human relics suddenly doubling in price. Soldiers whispered that if the fortress was real, no fleet could stand against it. Children played games of the hidden city, drawing rings in the dirt and in the underworld of the trade ports. Smugglers sold data shards claiming to show parts of the Shimmering City. Most were fakes, a few were not. Reltal, the young clerk, saw it all. He walked through the markets with his slate and listened. The people believed more than the council. Fear grew, excitement grew, and deep in his gut he knew something had begun that could not be stopped. Inside the void, the city stirred. One relay lit, then another. Lights moved across invisible networks like sparks on a fuse. In the heart of the city, biomes long dark, flickered to life. Artificial suns rose over forests sealed for centuries. Rivers flowed again. Machines released clouds of birds that had slept in eggs for generations. In the barracks, Soldiers long dead were replaced by machines that drilled, waiting for orders, and in the command chamber, the heartbeat grew stronger. The human commander's chest rose. The first real breath in hundreds of years. Back in the council, the war archon slammed her staff on the table. We cannot wait. If this fortress exists, it must be destroyed before it wakes. I will send a fleet. The trade lords hissed in protest. Destroy? No, claim it. Harness its power. Humanity's gone. Let their tools serve us now. The elder shook his head. You do not claim what is not yours. You do not poke the fire that has slept too long. The council speaker raised his voice. Enough. We will not decide today. We'll investigate. A task force will be sent. Volunteers from each empire. We will confirm the truth. The chamber buzzed with uneasy agreement. Reltal, listening from the scribes' benches, felt his skin crawl. He thought of the elder's warning. The first. Sound is always small. This, he knew, was no longer small. That night, the archivist Melker returned to the Moon Archive. He placed the human record back into its slot. But as he turned, he noticed another rod glowing faintly, one he had not touched. He reached out, heart pounding, and activated it. A voice filled the chamber. Not alien, not mechanical. Human, if. You are hearing this, then the ark stirs. We built it not for conquest, but for survival. But if you come with weapons, if you come with greed, then you will face the last fire of Earth. Melkor froze, the words echoing in the silence. And at the same moment, far away in the void, the hidden city's shields rippled once. It's like a veil testing its own strength. The galaxy did not know it yet, but humanity's secret was awake. The void was black and endless. For centuries, nothing stirred in that place. Ships passed the sector and saw nothing but still stars. Even the Council's deep scans had found silence. But now, something ancient began to move. The black seam rippled like water disturbed by a stone. A faint glow, blue and gold, shimmered behind it. Then, deep inside, a city that was not supposed to exist flickered with the first light of awakening inside. Its core chamber, the hum of machines, grew louder. Engines that had been silent for ages vibrated. Giant rings, once folded and dark, shifted a fraction. Their hidden edges glowing. At the very heart of it, a single room warmed. Command chamber built by human hands long ago. And in that chamber sat a figure still, silent, encased in a cryosleep pod. His chest rose faintly, his heart beating once every slow minute. His name had been lost to time, but his duty had not. He was humanity's sentinel, chosen to guard what Earth had left. Behind now the pod hissed. Frost melted on the glass. The man's eyes twitched under sealed lids. The shimmering city was waking. Far above the command chamber, in vast sealed domes, the city's artificial ecosystems stirred. Dark forests glowed faint green as biolights reactivated. Rivers long frozen cracked and flowed once more, spreading silver paths across the soil. Grass sprouted in seconds, stretching toward the light of artificial suns that flared alive after centuries of darkness. Machines shaped like birds and bees buzzed to life, releasing seeds into the fresh wind. Some creatures preserved and engineered. Stasis woke slowly, blinking against the sudden light. The city had not only preserved humans, it had preserved Earth itself. Pieces of its forests, mountains, and skies. The void outside stayed black. But inside, Earth's memory bloomed. In the lower levels, barracks hummed. Doors slid open, revealing endless rows of armored suits standing at attention, exoskeletons forged of black steel and shining alloys. Guns taller than a man rested in racks. Robotic soldiers stirred humanoid, built to train, to repair, to prepare. Their eyes glowed red as they walked the rows, checking equipment. In silence, they oiled barrels, powered up armor suits, and ran diagnostics. They had no emotion, no fear, only programming. Protect the city, defend humanity, await command. The soldiers of the Shimmering City were not flesh. They were machines of patience, and they had been waiting for this exact moment. The pod cracked open. Mist hissed into the chamber. The man inside gasped, his chest rising faster now, each breath deeper, sharper. His fingers twitched, then curled. Slowly, his eyes opened. Were human eyes, clear and gray, but filled with centuries of silence. He coughed once, a sound that echoed in the chamber like thunder. A voice greeted him, not human, not cold machine, but something between. "The city's AI, Commander Hale," it said softly. "Protocol 7 has been triggered." The man sat up. His body shook, but strength returned quickly. His training had not faded, only slept. He placed his hand on the glass edge of the pod and whispered with a dry voice, "How long are they?" AI answered without pause. 312 years since departure from Earth's orbit. 190 years since the last signal from Sol. 1 hour since external interference probed the fold. Hale's head rose sharply. "Interference?" "Yes," the AI said. "Aliens have found us." At that very moment, just outside, the seam of the fold, the Zath warships held position, uneasy. They had seen too much to laugh. The Bureau survey craft, trembling with data overload, pulled back but kept their scanners locked. Messages burned through subspace toward the Council. It is real. The hidden fortress exists. Inside the chamber of the Council, panic spread. The War Archon slammed her fist. A fleet must strike now before it fully wakes. "No," hissed the trade lords. "We must take it. Imagine its value an entire city fortress under our control." The elder spoke quietly. "You do not take it. You do not strike it. You run from it." No one listened. Plans of fleets and invasions filled the air. And far away in the void, Commander Hale prepared his city for war. Hale stood weakly, but the strength returned with every step. He placed his hand on the central console. It recognized his touch and glowed with living light. "All systems report," he ordered. The AI's voice filled the chamber. Biomes at 34% power, barracks at 51%, defense fields at 62%. Outer rings dormant, weapon cores offline but functional. "Good enough," Hale whispered. His eyes narrowed. "Wake the outer grid. Prepare defenses. Send a scan beyond the fold." Understood. The city shuddered. From its massive shell, invisible fields rippled outward. For the first time in centuries, the Shimmering City looked at the galaxy. Outside, it saw alien warships circling like wolves. On the Zath flagship, alarms screamed. "Something's moving in the seam." A pilot shouted. The War Archon stood tall. Her mandibles clicked nervously. She had laughed at humans. Now she felt no laughter. The seam rippled. A glow pressed against it from within, brighter, larger, as if something massive stirred just beyond the curtain of night. Then a voice cut through their combs. A voice not alien, not machine, but human. "This is Commander Hale of the Shimmering City," it said, calm, cold. "You are trespassing." The bridge froze. No one had heard a human voice in centuries. And yet here it was, strong and alive. Inside the void, the Shimmering City lit brighter. Its outer rings unfolded, glowing like suns. Towers rose. Shields shimmered into visible arcs. The galaxy watched in silence as humanity's hidden fortress revealed the edge of its strength and in the council chamber. As every alien delegate stared at the live feed, the elder whispered one sentence. "You should have left them sleeping." The view shifted back to the void. The Shimmering City's guns, long silent, began to warm. The awakening was complete. The galaxy had not heard silence like this in centuries. On every channel, in every trade hub and warport, screens glowed with the image of the void sector. Alien. Warships floated outside a rippling seam of darkness. Inside that seam, something vast glowed faintly rings of light. Towers that touched the stars, a fortress the size of a world. The rumors had been true. Humanity's secret city was alive. Billions watched. Billions waited. Then, from the fleet of the Zath, a signal broke the silence. The War Archon herself appeared on every broadcast, her mandibles wide, her eyes burning with defiance. "Citizens of the galaxy," she declared, her voice sharp as blades, "do not fear. What you see is no threat. It is a relic, an old ruin. That belongs to us now. The Zath will take it. The Zath will crush whatever stirs within. Humanity is gone. Their ashes are dust. Only we remain. Her words echoed across the stars. Fleets far away cheered. Markets trembled. But in the chamber of the council, the elder's pale eyes narrowed. He leaned toward the speaker and whispered, "She lies to them. And she lies to herself." Inside the Shimmering City, Commander Hale stood in the command chamber, watching the Zath broadcast on a glowing screen. His jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists. The AI's calm voice filled the room. Their fleets number 163 ships. Primary weapons locked on our fold? They are broadcasting galaxy-wide. Of course they are, Hale muttered. They think the galaxy is watching a stage play. The AI paused. Do we respond? Hale's gray eyes hardened. Put me through. Moments later, every screen in the galaxy flickered. The Waracon's speech was cut short. A new voice filled the channels. Human.com. Cold. This is Commander Hale of the Shimmering City, he said. His voice carried the weight of silence, the strength of patience, the certainty of one who had waited centuries to speak. You mock us, you threaten us, you call us dust. But know this, we were patient while you laughed. We were silent while you grew arrogant. That silence ends today. The galaxy froze. Across stations, homes, war halls, and council chambers. Billions of beings leaned closer to their screens. Hale's eyes stared directly into the camera. You call yourselves hunters, but you have cornered prey that built its cage from steel. And fire? You want to test us? Then test us. But remember this, his voice lowered, each word a knife. We do not fight for victory. We fight to end wars. The broadcast cut. The Zath fleets roared with anger. The War Archon slammed her staff down, opened fire. Dozens of warships released beams of plasma, torrents of missiles, burning lances of energy all converging on. The black seam, where the Shimmering City lay hidden, the void lit up with deadly fire. The council chamber erupted in gasps. Across the galaxy, citizens covered their mouths. And yet, nothing struck. The weapons vanished the instant they touched. The seam swallowed whole by invisible fields. The fold bent and twisted, drinking the fire as if it had never existed. On the flagship of the Zeth, panic rippled. No impact, no damage. The War Archon bared her fangs. Again, pour everything. They fired again and again. But the void absorbed every shot like rain falling into an ocean. Then, inside the seam, the city stirred. In Hale's chamber, alarms glowed red. Shields holding at full capacity, the AI reported calmly. Energy absorption complete. Power reserves at 114%. Hale nodded slowly. Good. Let them waste their fury. He looked at the map showing the alien ships clustered outside the fold like insects beating their wings against glass. 8. His hand, activate the shimmering grid, the city responded. Across its massive structure, rings unfolded further. Golden lines traced across the dark, pulsing with power. Fields extended outward, shimmering faintly now, visible arcs that wrapped the city like armor. The hidden fortress revealed itself a little more, and the galaxy trembled at the sight. One by one, enormous cannons rose from the outer edges, their barrels glowing blue. Railguns longer than alien warships locked into place. Missile pods unfolded, and at the core, a weapon of unknown design began to spin, its rings humming with deadly resonance. The Shimmering City was no ghost. It was a fortress prepared for war. On every world the broadcasts continued. Alien citizens whispered in terror. Soldiers argued in fear and awe. They're alive, whispered one dockworker on a far trade station. The humans are alive. Not just alive, another said, voice shaking. They're stronger than ever. In the council chamber, the delegates shouted over each other. We must unite our fleets, cried one. We must sue for peace, cried another. The elder sat still, eyes fixed on the glowing city in the feed. The question is not what we must do, he murmured, unheard by most. The question is what they will choose. The war archon of the Zath grew desperate. Her fleets had fired every weapon. None had touched the city. Bring the rammers forward. She snarled. 3 enormous ships, plated in thick armor, advanced toward the seam. They were not meant to fire, they were meant to crash, to ram, to tear through shields by brute force. The galaxy watched breathless as the rammers approached. Inside the city, the AI's calm voice spoke. Incoming mass threats. Impact projected in 60 seconds. Hale's face hardened. His hand hovered above the console. He could end them now with one command. But his words echoed in his mind. We do not fight for victory. We fight to end. Warzy lowered his hand. Target their lead ship. Fire 1 railgun. A warning. The city obeyed. From one of its rings, a single railgun fired. The projectile, a rod of metal accelerated to unimaginable speed, tore through the void in silence. In less than a second, it pierced the lead rammer ship from bow to stern. The warship split apart, its pieces drifting lifeless into space. The other 2 rammers froze, their crews silent, staring at the wreckage of their sister ship. And then, every screen across the galaxy flickered again. Commander Hale's face returned. His gray eyes burned like cold fire. His voice was soft but carried everywhere. This is your first and only warning. Leave. The broadcast cut. The galaxy held its breath. The Shimmering City's guns glowed brighter. Its rings pulsed with deadly light. Humanity had spoken. The void was silent a moment ago. It had been full of screaming engines, blazing plasma, and furious alien voices. Then, in one single instant, silence fell. The Zath rammer ship drifted in. 2 broken halves, split by 1 shot from the Shimmering City. Pieces of its hull spun slowly, glowing red with heat. Sparks died in the dark. The crew of 100 warriors had not even screamed. They had simply been erased. The other 2 rammers stopped. Their captains stared in frozen disbelief. Across the fleet, alien soldiers whispered in terror. Their eyes locked on the fortress glowing inside the seam. Railguns bigger than cities pointed outward, glowing blue. The fortress had fired once, and that one shot had changed the galaxy. On the Zath flagship, alarms wailed. Officers shouted, trying to rally the fleet. The war archon stood stiff, her mandibles trembling with rage. Do not stop, she bellowed. This is illusion, trickery. They cannot hold against us all. But her crew did not believe her. The soldiers remembered the beam fire swallowed by nothing. They remembered the railgun that had split a warship as easily as cutting cloth. Junior officer whispered the words that none dared say aloud. They are Deathworlders. They are humans. The Warcon's claws dug into the armrest. Silence. Prepare all ships for full assault. Yet even as she roared, her fleet hesitated. Inside the Shimmering City, Commander Hale stood tall in the command chamber. His gray eyes scanned the data feed. He could see the hesitation in the alien formations. He could hear their desperate chatter through intercepted comms. Put me through, Hale ordered. The AI opened the channel. Across the galaxy, every screen flickered once again. Hale's face appeared, calm and hard. His voice was steady, low, and cold. You have tested our patience. You have fired on us. You have mocked us. Now you will see the answer of humanity. He leaned closer, his eyes burning into the feed. We do not fight for glory. We do not fight for power. Fight to end the war you have begun. The galaxy trembled as his voice cut out. Activate outer rings. Hal commanded. The fortress responded. The Shimmering City lit brighter, its massive rings unfolding fully now.
Ow.
Golden arcs of energy stretched between them, weaving a net of power. Towers opened at their peaks, revealing hidden cannons. The great central core spun faster, humming with a resonance so deep it shook the void. For centuries, these weapons had slept. They had been built not only to defend humanity, but to remind the galaxy why humans had been feared. Now, one by one, they woke. The Zath fleets wavered. Then, with a scream of pride and fear, they charged. Dozens of ships fired at once plasma. Lances, missile swarms, kinetic slugs all pouring toward the fortress. Hale raised his hand. Engage the shimmering grid. The grid flared. A dome of glowing light erupted around the city, shimmering with every color of the spectrum. The alien weapons struck it and vanished. Plasma fire dissolved into sparks. Missiles disintegrated. Mid-flight, rail slugs melted into dust. The fortress absorbed everything. Its core glowed brighter with every hit, feeding on their fury. Hale's eyes narrowed. Now, return the fire. The city obeyed. 1,000 railguns fired as one, silent. Blue streaks tore through the void. Alien warships exploded into blossoms of fire. Massive beams of white energy lanced outward from the central core, sweeping through enemy lines like scythes through grass. Entire squadrons vanished in seconds. The galaxy watched in horror as fleets that had mocked humanity were reduced to wreckage in moments. Across the galaxy, the feed continued. Citizens screamed. Markets collapsed. Soldiers watching from distant outposts dropped their weapons in shock. On one trade station, a child pointed at the screen and whispered, "The humans came back." On another world, a general whispered to his staff, "We cannot fight this. We must beg for peace." In the council chamber, chaos erupted. Some delegates shouted for immediate surrender. Others demanded a united fleet to counter the humans. Elder in gray sat motionless. His pale eyes watched the feed. At last he whispered, "This is only their beginning." Hale stood still in his chamber. Round him, screens showed alien fleets dying. The AI's calm voice listed numbers. 53 enemy vessels destroyed, 17 disabled, 32 retreating, shields at 94%. Power reserves increasing. Hale's hand tightened on the console. His voice was cold. "Let them run. Make sure the galaxy sees it all." The AI pulsed. Understood. Broadcasting without encryption. Hale stared at the wreckage outside. For a moment, his face softened. He remembered Earth, its skies burning, its people dying, its silence after the war. He remembered the oath he had sworn. "If humanity falls, I will not let their memory fade." Now, he was their voice. Now, he was their answer. On the flagship of the Zath, chaos reigned. Ships burned, squadrons shattered. The Waracon's eyes blazed with fury and fear. She slammed her claws down. "We are not beaten. Rally to me. Sacrifice if you must. We will not yield to ghosts." But her officers looked away. They no longer believed. One whispered, "We cannot fight this." Another muttered, "They are gods of war." But the Waracon raised her blade, ready to strike her own crew for weakness. Then her screen flickered. Hale's face filled it. "This is over," Hale said. His voice was calm, final. "Withdraw, or be erased." The Waracon's mandibles clicked, trembling. She wanted to scream, to defy. But outside her viewport, another fleet ship exploded in silence. Torn apart by a single railgun streak. For the first time in her life, she knew fear. The alien fleets began to scatter. Ships turned, retreating into the void. Some fled in silence. Some broadcast surrender signals, desperate to be spared. But Hal did not lower his weapons. He stared coldly at the stars. His voice low and merciless. "Let them run," he whispered. "Let them tell the galaxy what they saw. The age of silence is over. Humanity has answered." The city's rings pulsed brighter, casting light across the void. For the first time in centuries, the hidden fortress revealed itself fully vast, beautiful, terrible. The galaxy had thought humans extinct. Now they knew the truth. And somewhere, in the shadow of the council chamber, the elder's pale eyes closed as he murmured to himself, "The storm has begun." The galaxy could not look away. Every world, every port, every war hall, every screen no matter the species, no matter the empire, all showed the same images. Alien fleets breaking apart in silence. Railgun streaks slicing ships into pieces. A fortress glowing inside the fold, vast and terrifying. And then the voice of a human, calm and merciless, saying, "This is your first and only warning. Leave." That message repeated again and again. Merchants froze, mid-trade, their goods forgotten. Children stared wide. Soldiers dropped their weapons in disbelief. Leaders clenched their jaws, whispering behind closed doors. The galaxy had known war. It had known empires rising and falling. But this was different. This was something it had only whispered about in Legend's Deathworlders. Humans, the species that fought until the end and never truly died. And now, their fortress burned like a star dot in the Galactic Council chamber. Chaos ruled. Delegates shouted over one another. "They must be destroyed," cried the Iron Hives. "They cannot be allowed to rise again." "No," barked the trade lords. "We must treat. Make deals. If they control such a fortress, imagine what they will demand if we make them enemies. They will demand blood," hissed the Shriver matriarch. Her frills shook with fear. "They will want revenge for Earth's fall." The speaker banged his staff, but no one listened. The chamber was a storm of voices, fear, and fury. Only one figure sat still, the elder in gray. His pale eyes followed the images floating above. The table, wreckage of alien ships, the glow of the Shimmering City. He whispered to himself, words that few heard. "They warned you. You laughed. Now, you will pay for your laughter." Outside the council, the fear spread like fire. On a trade station, dock workers argued. "They'll come for us," one spat, his hands shaking. "Humans don't forgive." "No," another said. "They don't need to come for us.
Oh.
Just sit there, hidden, and wait. That's worse." On a distant farming world, a child asked her mother, "Will the humans burn us too?" The mother could not answer. On a warship orbiting a neutral planet, a young soldier whispered to his captain, "I saw them fire once." Only once, and an entire fleet died. What chance do we have? Fear was no longer in whispers. It was on every tongue. Commander Hale stood in the command chamber. His face was calm, but his eyes were heavy with the weight of what had begun. The AI's voice spoke. "Enemy fleets have retreated. No hostile presence detected in immediate vicinity. Galactic communication feeds remain open." "Good," Hal said quietly. "Let them keep watching." He looked at the screens, showing billions of viewers across the galaxy. Their faces were pale with terror, eyes wide, mouths open. Entire population stared at him, silent. Hale spoke softly, almost to himself. "Let them remember us this way," the AI asked. "Shall we pursue the fleeing fleets?" Hale shook his head. "No, we are not hunters. Not yet. Fear is the weapon we need now, not slaughter." Still inside, Hale's chest burned. He remembered Earth's last days, the flames, the violence. He remembered the oath. If humanity must die, we will not die quietly now. The galaxy finally understood. Across the stars, leaders met in secret chambers. On one world, an emperor shouted at his generals, "We must build, double our fleets, triple our weapons. Humanity cannot rise above us." On another, a queen whispered to her advisors, "Send envoys, offer peace, offer tribute. We must not anger them further." And in the hidden underworld, smugglers and mercenaries whispered of selling. Human relic shards of old technology now worth more than empires. But every plan, every whisper, was drenched in the same thing: fear. On the flagship of the battered Zath fleet, the War Archon sat in silence. Her once mighty voice was gone. Her crew avoided her eyes. She replayed the moment again, and again, the human fortress glowing, the single railgun tearing apart her rammer ship, Hale's voice ordering her to leave. For the first time, she felt something colder than rage. She felt shame. Her empire had promised victory. Instead, she had delivered humiliation, and worse, every world had seen it. The galaxy had watched the Zath-famed hunters, feared warriors flee before one human fortress. She clenched her claws until they bled. "This is not the end," she whispered. "We will find a way. We will kill them all." or die trying. Her vow spread through her crew like poison inside the Shimmering City. Hale prepared his message. "Record," he ordered. The AI pulsed. Recording Hale stood before the central console. His uniform, though old, still bore the flag of Earth, a faded blue and green patch, the last memory of his home. He looked into the camera, his eyes unblinking. "To the Galactic Council," he began, his voice steady, "and to all who watch. You call us extinct, you call us forgotten. But humanity does not vanish. Humanity waits." He stepped closer, his voice dropping lower, colder. "We do not seek war, do not seek conquest. But if you bring fire to our door, we will answer with storms." His jaw tightened. His final words burned across every screen in the galaxy. "Test us again, and you will not see another sunrise." The broadcast ended. Back in the council chamber, silence followed the broadcast. No one laughed now. No one jeered. The elder stood. Slowly, his cloak gray, his ring dull. His pale eyes swept the chamber. "You see now?" he said softly. "You see what they are?" the speaker asked, trembling. "What are they?" The elder's lips curved in something that was not quite a smile. "They are the answer you feared. They are the shadow you mocked. They are the storm that does not forgive." He paused, then whispered, "And this is only the beginning." In the void, the Shimmering City pulsed with light. Its rings glowed brighter, visible now even from distant systems. "Inside, Commander?" Hale stood at the viewport, his eyes fixed on the stars. His voice was low, almost a growl. "They will not stop. They will come again, stronger, louder, united. And when they do," his hand pressed against the glass, "we will show them what it means to wake the dead." The city hummed, its weapons glowing like a sun about to rise. The galaxy whispered in fear, waiting for what came next. Humanity had returned. The galaxy waited in silence. From the richest throne worlds to the poorest mining colonies, from the frozen moons to the burning trade hubs, every citizen had seen the broadcast. Every soldier had watched alien fleets turn to dust. Every leader had heard the human voice. The words still echoed like thunder in their ears. "Test us again, and you will not see another sunrise." No one laughed now. No one mocked. The galaxy had expected ruins and ghosts. Instead, it had seen a fortress alive, a city that shimmered like a star in the dark. And it had heard the voice of humanity, a voice that spoke not of mercy, not of conquest, but of final warnings. The galaxy did not sleep, trembled. The council chamber was filled. Again, but unlike the first session, there was no laughter. There were no smug speeches, no mocking jokes. There was only silence, broken by whispers of fear. The speaker's staff shook in his hands. "We must decide war or peace." The iron hives pounded their fists. "War. If we unite our fleets, we can crush them before they rise further." Trade lords hissed back. "Fools, did you not see? One fortress destroyed a fleet of hunters. Imagine what more they have hidden. We must sue for peace, offer tribute, anything to avoid destruction." The Shriver matriarch's frills twitched violently. They will not accept peace. They will want blood for what was done to Earth. We killed their world. How do you make peace with the dead? The chamber roared again, arguments colliding, like storms. And then once more the elder spoke. His pale eye swept the chamber. His voice was quiet, but every word cut through the noise. "You asked the wrong question. Not war, not peace. Ask only this. How long will they choose to wait before they end you?" The chamber fell still. Commander Hale stood in the heart of the Shimmering City, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, holograms glowed maps of the galaxy, broadcasts from alien worlds, intercepted council debates. The AI spoke. "They are afraid. Some call for war, some for peace, some for surrender. They are not united." "Good," Hal said softly. "Fear divides faster than fire." He walked slowly to the viewport. Beyond, the galaxy stretched like a sea of cold stars. His fortress glowed, its rings lit brighter now, casting arcs of gold and blue across the void. For the first time, the Shimmering City was visible not only to the fleets nearby, but to systems light years away. It did not hide anymore. Shone. The AI asked, "Shall we continue to reveal our strength?" "Yes," Hale whispered. "Let them see. Let the galaxy understand that silence was never weakness. Silence was preparation." Hale raised his hand to the console. "Prepare the beacon array." The fortress stirred again. Panels unfolded across its vast rings. Towers aligned. Energy gathered then. With a blinding flare, the city fired, not at ships, not at worlds, but into the empty void above. A wave of light burst outward, stretched across the sector, brighter than suns, a shimmering aurora of blue and gold. It painted the dark with colors no eye had seen before. On nearby worlds, the night sky lit like dawn. On distant stations, alarms wailed as sensors blinded. Across the galaxy, millions of beings looked up and gasped. The humans had not fired a weapon. They had lit the stars. On a farming colony, children ran outside, pointing at the sky. The stars are glowing. On a mining station, a grizzled worker dropped his tools. His eyes watered as he whispered, "They've returned." On the throne world of the Zath, the War Archon screamed at her advisors. "It is a challenge, a declaration of war. They mock us." But her soldiers no longer cheered her. They were afraid. In the council chamber, delegates stared at the feed, speechless. The elder alone nodded slowly. "They do not speak only with words. They speak with light. They tell you, we are here. And we will not hide again." Inside the command chamber, Hale breathed deeply. For centuries, humanity had been silent, forgotten, mocked. The galaxy trembled because of one city. But Hale knew the truth. The Shimmering City was not the end. It was not humanity's last fortress. It was only one of many. He whispered to himself, "If one city can wake, so can the others." The AI pulsed. "Your orders." Hale looked out at the glowing stars. "We wait. Let fear spread. Let them wonder how many more we built. Let them see one flame and imagine 1,000. He closed his eyes for a moment, remembering Earth. The seas, the skies, the voices that had fallen silent. He opened them again, filled with steel. They will never mock us again. Back in the council, the elder rose one final time. His voice carried over the chamber. "You laughed when I told you they were hidden. Now you see the truth? Remember this, humans never fight to win battles. They fight to end wars. And if you force another war, they will not stop until your empires are ash." He turned and walked out, his cloak trailing behind him. His words hung in the air like a prophecy. In the void, the Shimmering City pulsed brighter than ever. Its rings glowed like suns, casting light into the dark. To some, it was terror. To others, it was hope. The galaxy whispered, "The humans have returned. The humans are awake. The storm has come." Inside the city, Commander Hale placed his hand on the console and spoke quietly. His words carried only by the AI, but destined to echo in the centuries to come. "Remember this light. Because when the next war begins, it will not end until the stars themselves fall silent." The Shimmering City shone on, lighting the galaxy with humanity's return, and across the stars. Empires trembled. Humanity had awakened. The age of silence was over. The saga ends with the Shimmering City fully revealed, lighting the galaxy both literally and symbolically, Hale's chilling promise, and the galaxy forever changed.